The night the sky tore open above New York, no one understood what they were truly witnessing. The cameras captured it, of course. They always did. A red fissure split the heavens like a wound that refused to close, and for a single, breathless moment, the city fell silent. Not because it feared destruction, this was a world accustomed to collateral damage and corporate spin, but because the air itself felt wrong. Heavy, pressurized, as though something ancient and merciless had exhaled into it. And then the breathing began. Slow, mechanical, rhythmic, it echoed from nowhere and everywhere at once. Within the corporate towers of Vought International, executives watched their monitors flicker with static. They assumed it was a hostile Supe display, perhaps a rival stunt designed to undermine stock value. In this world, chaos was rarely accidental. It was marketed, but this was not marketing. From the tier in the sky,
Darth Vader had entered a universe that did not understand fear.
Like a living shadow.
Across the city, the so-called heroes were already responding.
It lowered itself with impossible control, boots touching asphalt without a sound. The breathing continued,
Gravitational disturbance.
A mask as dark as void metal, lenses like twin embers, a chest panel flickering with alien light. Darth Vader had entered a universe that did not understand fear, not yet. Across the city, the so-called heroes were already responding. In the penthouse of Vought Tower, Homelander tilted his head as he listened to the distant sonic anomaly. His super hearing detected the breathing first, not the rupture in space, not the gravitational disturbance. The breathing, it annoyed him. Everything in this world either worshipped him or feared him. That was the balance. That was order, but this presence felt indifferent. It did not tremble at his name, and that was unacceptable. High above the skyline, Homelander hovered, cape snapping in the wind. His eyes burned red as he scanned the source of the anomaly. He saw the black-armored figure standing calmly in the middle of an empty avenue. Citizens frozen at a distance, phones raised in awe. The stranger did not look up. The breathing continued. Homelander descended slowly, boots touching pavement. He smiled for the cameras, all right. He called out casually, voice amplified by charm and menace, "New Supe, you forgot to register with Vought." Silence. The black mask turned slightly. A gloved hand lifted. A taxi 20 meters away began to tremble. Metal groaned. Windows shattered inward. The vehicle rose into the air as if gripped by an invisible fist. Pedestrians screamed. Cameras shook. Homelander's smile faltered for half a second. The taxi crumpled in midair. Long before this universe was born, long before Supes were engineered in laboratories and sold like consumer products, there existed another mythos of power, one not built on celebrity, but on destiny and ruin. The saga of Star Wars told of a fallen Jedi Knight who became the enforcer of a tyrannical empire. Vader was not a hero marketed for profit. He was the consequence of fear weaponized. And beyond even that mythos, in our own world, stories of dark futures and godlike warriors had taken shape through tabletop battlefields and painted miniatures. The universe of Warhammer 40,000 was born from the creative minds at Games Workshop, a grimdark setting where there is only war, where superhuman soldiers wage endless conflict beneath a decaying Imperium. It emerged from the earlier medieval brutality of Warhammer fantasy battle, and evolved into a science fantasy nightmare of cosmic scale. Why does that matter? Because this was no longer a world of satirical corruption and corporate superheroes. This was becoming a battleground of ideology. The boys, the small, fractured group who hunted Supes from the shadows, were already mobilizing. Billy Butcher watched the footage in stunned silence. He had seen Supes explode. He had watched cities burn. But he had never seen Homelander lifted like prey. "Who the hell is that bloke?" Butcher muttered. No compound V signature matched the readings. No genetic profile fit. This wasn't a product of Vought. This was something else. Meanwhile, Vader stood amidst the sirens and debris, sensing this world through the Force. He felt corruption, not the structured tyranny of an empire, but something weaker, petty, narcissistic. A civilization ruled not by discipline, but by vanity. He felt Homelander rising again, fury boiling. Good, conflict clarified truth. Homelander burst from the rubble with a roar, eyes blazing with enough heat to shear steel. Twin beams of crimson energy lanced toward Vader. In one fluid motion, Vader ignited his lightsaber. A blade of pure red plasma extended with a hiss. The beams struck the blade and split, deflecting harmlessly into the sky. The crowd went silent. Homelander hesitated not from fear, but from disbelief. No one had ever blocked him before. Vader advanced slowly, cape trailing behind him like the shadow of extinction. "You mistake strength for superiority," Vader said calmly. "Power without control is weakness." Homelander screamed and charged. The collision shattered windows for blocks. Fists met armor. Heat vision scorched black metal, but did not pierce it. The force rippled outward in invisible shockwaves. Asphalt buckled, streetlights twisted, but something was happening that cameras could not capture. For the first time in his life, Homelander was fighting someone who did not seek approval. Vader did not taunt him, did not posture, did not smile. He simply assessed, and then he adapted. The force tightened around Homelander's limbs mid-strike, slowing him by fractions of a second, enough for Vader to pivot and drive his armored fist into Homelander's solar plexus. The impact sent the Supe skidding across shattered pavement. High above, storm clouds gathered unnaturally. Vader lifted his hand again, not to choke, to dominate. The pressure that followed was not physical alone. It pressed against Homelander's mind, against his ego, against the fragile scaffolding of self-worship that held him together. Homelander staggered. He felt something probing him, sensing insecurity, rage, abandonment. Vader's voice cut through the chaos. "You are a child wearing a god's mask." Those words struck deeper than any blow, because they were true. And for the first time since he had taken control of this world, Homelander felt something dangerously close to doubt. Across the city, Butcher stared at the unfolding devastation. He realized something critical. This newcomer was not here to rule. He was here to conquer, and if Homelander fell, the power vacuum. News cycles ran without interruption. Analysts speculated. Vought issued statements dripping with controlled confidence. The phrase "unregistered enhanced individual" flooded every broadcast. They refused to call him what the public already had. Monster, the ruined avenue where the clash occurred, was now sealed behind military barricades. Twisted steel and scorched concrete stood as proof that something beyond Compound V had stepped into their reality. And at the center of it all stood Darth Vader. He had not pursued Homelander after the Supe retreated into the upper atmosphere, wounded more in pride than flesh. Vader had allowed him to flee. Fear ripens when given time. Within Vought Tower, panic brewed behind tinted glass. Board members demanded answers. Scientists scanned atmospheric data from the rupture in the sky. The energy signature did not resemble radiation, gamma fluctuation, or alien alloy interference. It resembled something theoretical, a gravitational shear between realities, but they would not dare say that publicly, because if this world admitted that something could enter it uninvited, then the illusion of control would collapse. High above the city, Homelander floated alone in the clouds. His chest rose and fell rapidly. He replayed the encounter again and again in his mind. The compression of air around his throat, the effortless deflection of his heat vision, the words, "You are a child wearing a god's mask." He clenched his fists. No one spoke to him like that. No one survived doing so. Yet the black-armored figure had not only survived, he had dominated. Homelander's reflection shimmered faintly in the moisture of the clouds. For a fleeting second, he saw something unfamiliar in his own eyes. Uncertainty, and uncertainty was poison. Meanwhile, far below, the city's underbelly stirred. Billy Butcher did not believe in destiny. He believed in leverage, in angles, in exploiting weakness, and he had just witnessed the first real crack in Homelander's invincible image. Inside a dimly lit safe house, the boys gathered around flickering screens. Huey Campbell replayed footage frame by frame, hands trembling. "That red sword," Huey whispered. "It cut through laser beams." Butcher lit a cigarette, eyes narrowed. "That wasn't a sword, mate. That was a message." The question was simple. Was Vader a solution, or a worse problem? Because power always demanded direction, and this black-armored stranger did not look like a man seeking peace. He looked like someone seeking order. Across the Atlantic, intelligence agencies scrambled. Military satellites locked onto Vader's stationary position. Missile systems armed quietly. Governments whispered of containment. They made a fatal mistake. They assumed he operated by physics alone. Vader stood unmoving amidst the destruction, helmet tilted slightly upward, as though listening to something far beyond sound. Through the Force, he felt this world's emotional current, fear spreading like wildfire, corporate deception, political weakness, a civilization intoxicated by spectacle rather than strength. This universe was fractured. And fractured systems begged to be unified, not by democracy, by dominance. In another timeline, in another galaxy, Vader had served an empire that rose from the ashes of a corrupt republic. He had witnessed how fear could forge obedience, how swift brutality could silence chaos. He had also witnessed betrayal. He felt no nostalgia for the empire, only clarity. Power must be absolute, or it rots. Above him, fighter jets roared into position. Missiles deployed in synchronized precision. The first warhead struck. Fire swallowed the avenue in a blinding eruption. Shockwaves rattled skyscrapers. A mushroom of smoke climbed into the night. The world held its breath. When the smoke cleared, a circular void remained at the blast center. Debris scattered outward, as if repelled by an invisible barrier. Vader stood untouched. His cape smoldered faintly at the edges. With a single outward gesture, he unleashed the Force in a crushing wave. Jets spiraled from the sky like broken toys. Steel folded midair. Pilots screamed as gravity betrayed them. Explosions dotted the horizon. Governments went silent. This was not a rogue soup. This was a force of nature. Inside Vought Tower, emergency protocols activated. Reinforcements were summoned, the remaining members of the Seven. Among them, Queen Maeve watched the devastation with hardened eyes. She had seen Homelander lose control before, but never like this. "Can he bleed?" she asked quietly. Because bleeding implied vulnerability, and no one yet understood whether this being possessed any. Back in the shattered avenue, Vader finally moved. Each step was deliberate, each breath steady. Civilians fled in terror, yet some remained at a distance, filming. They could not look away. Humanity had always been drawn to apocalyptic beauty. He reached the center of the crater formed by the missile strike, and knelt slightly, gloved fingers brushing the fractured asphalt. He could feel it. The tear between dimensions had not closed. It pulsed faintly, unstable, artificial. This was not random cosmic drift. This universe had been pierced intentionally. But by whom? Vader's mind reached outward through the Force, searching for the disturbance's origin. He sensed something foreign, not technological, not mystical in the traditional sense. Corporate experimentation, energy manipulation, an attempt to weaponize something beyond comprehension. His lenses lifted toward Vought Tower. He felt ambition there, greed, fear masked as authority. He rose. If this world had opened a door,
he would not allow the cameras to remember him as the one who retreated.
High above, Homelander descended once more, rage eclipsing caution. He would not allow the cameras to remember him as the one who retreated. "You think you're special?" Homelander shouted, hovering above Vader. "You think you can just show up and scare everyone?" Vader did not look up immediately. When he did, his voice was colder than the vacuum of space. "I do not seek to scare." The lightsaber ignited again with its familiar hiss. "I seek to rule." The word struck harder than any missile. Homelander lunged downward like a falling star. This time, Vader did not wait. The force surged violently outward, halting Homelander mid-descent and slamming him into the crater floor with seismic force. Concrete liquefied beneath the impact. Homelander roared and retaliated with a concussive shockwave of his own, sending Vader skidding backward. The duel escalated. Heat vision carved trenches through buildings. The crimson blade sliced through reinforced steel like paper. Each strike reshaped the cityscape, but the difference between them grew clearer with every exchange. Homelander fought emotionally. Vader fought strategically. When Homelander overextended, Vader anticipated. When Homelander raged, Vader calculated. Finally, Vader extended both hands. The pressure intensified beyond physical restraint. It invaded Homelander's nervous system. His vision blurred, his thoughts scattered. He was not merely being held. He was being dismantled. "You have been worshipped," Vader said calmly, "but you have never been tested." Homelander's screams echoed across the skyline. In that moment, the world understood something horrifying. Its greatest predator had encountered a greater one. And the balance of power had shifted irreversibly. But even as Vader tightened his grip, something unexpected rippled through the air. A distortion, a tremor in reality. The tear in the sky flared violently once more, and through it pulsed a surge of energy unlike the first. Vader's helmet turned sharply toward the rupture. He released Homelander instinctively, because what he felt emerging from that wound was not fear, not corruption, not vanity. It was hunger, ancient, vast, and far older than this universe. For the first time since his arrival, Vader sensed something that did not bend easily to the